إلا ذو الفقار.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today in hadith number 42 from 110 Lessons for Life from the Commander of the Faithful, Imam Ali, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, we want to analyze a tradition and a concept within Islam that the Commander brings forth, where he talks about what true poverty is, how poverty in many of its forms, not only material but spiritual, intellectual poverty, what the sources of this are. And obviously we could look at this topic and analyze it from many different angles and perspectives, and those who are experts in various fields of economic policy may be able to also analyze it. But today, in the tradition that we want to look at, we want to draw from the inspiration of the words of the Commander of the Faithful to see how he elaborates on what are the sources of poverty in this world. And again, not only material poverty, which is also obviously very important to consider and to reflect upon and to hope and try to alleviate, but many other forms of poverty which afflict humanity on a whole. And in this tradition, the Commander of the Faithful talks about the pairing of two qualities, two traits, and he tells us what the outcome of these traits are. And he says the following in this tradition: whenever one thing is united with something else, and in this case laziness is combined with ineffectiveness, the expected outcome of this union is poverty. So in this tradition, the Commander of the Faithful is showing us that in the world before this world existed, when God created the universe, and things of the same quality, the same had compatibility to one another, we can say were paired together. For example, the male and the female. For example, plants, flowers, animal kingdom, and so on and so forth. Spiritual traits and both the positive and negative traits were also paired together, and an outcome or a byproduct was given for these. In this particular tradition, the Commander of the Faithful shows us the pairing of two spiritual traits of laziness and ineffectiveness. And when we look at the commentary of this tradition, we're told that ineffectiveness is of multiple types, at least two. One is where somebody is ineffective, where they can't do something because of a challenge that they themselves have. For example, a person who's born blind, or and has some form of physical disability, or maybe a mental disability. Obviously, these people are not to blame for the situation, for the challenges that life has presented to them. They obviously have to struggle, in a different way than people who may not have that same difficulty. That's one example of ineffectiveness. But a second type is one which is self-imposed, which a person brings upon himself. Maybe, for example, people who wallow in their own self-pity, who feel that they're incapable of progressing in life. So the Commander of the Faithful shows us that when these two traits of laziness and ineffectiveness, when they combine, when they merge together, he tells us the outcome, the effect of this is nothing but poverty. And obviously we understand that not only poverty in the material sense, that a person is broke, they don't have a job, they don't have any income coming in. That's one level of poverty, which, as we know in the traditions, has been spoken about by the Prophet and his infallible successors, and is something that has to be tackled on all fronts by us as believers, as by governments, and many other institutions that are there to alleviate human suffering around the world. But also we can consider poverty at being at the level of spirituality, people who are spiritually poor, those who are lazy, for example, in praying, in fasting, in doing acts of goodness within their family, within their community, within the greater human society, and who have this ineffectiveness where they just, they don't want to work. They feel that there's no benefit in serving. That when these two traits come together, then obviously they will not be able to spiritually progress. And the same can be also said for intellectual poverty. People who are lazy, they don't want to go to school, they don't want to do homework, they don't want to try and do better in their examinations, in their classes. And not only that, but they have the ineffectiveness, meaning that maybe they've tried to study once or twice and they haven't gotten much better in that course or discipline, and so they just basically give up on themselves. When a person does this in terms of their studies, whether it be in elementary school or junior high, in high school, in university, college, whatever it may be, then the outcome, as the Commander of the Faithful says, is nothing but poverty. And here we mean intellectual poverty. So as we close, we remind ourselves to keep away from being lazy, to be active, to always be planning and thinking and doing things within our lives, and also not to be ineffective, meaning that we always need to put forth an effort. We need to be forward thinking, positive thinking, thinking good thoughts, and actually making a pledge to make a change within our own lives, within our own families, and obviously within our own society. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ali